Hello, it's your boy Davidoff. Welcome back to Movie Monday. The reason I'm talking quietly in this video is because I'm watching these movies at night and I finish work at 10 PM and I live in a flat, so I gotta keep it down. My apologies for being too quiet, but I'm looking forward to this. It is time for the Infinity Saga rewatch from this spectacular box set that came out recently in the UK, like November of 2020. The US had their own version released like a year earlier, and I was not impressed by the packaging of that one because it came in cardboard sleeves, and that's fingerprint central. To put all the discs in cardboard sleeves for me is very annoying. But the UK version, the Amazon Prime exclusive, did it so much better. Here's a see-through box, pretty cool. There's a drawer underneath that well, there's a letter here. Okay, it's there. Never mind. There's a letter from Kevin Feige, and there's a bonus disc with special features, like 4 discs in there. And over here are all 23 movies in 4K and regular Blu-ray. I'm going to watch them on 4K. I've seen these movies multiple times. I've seen them multiple times in 4K as well, and in cinemas. Not all of them, actually. I did miss them out in cinemas, especially in Phase 1. But I've seen them all multiple times, but I haven't seen them on this television. This LG CX OLED is unbelievable. I need to experience these movies on that television. I haven't seen it yet. I've seen them in 4K, just not on this television. So I'm looking forward to it. Cannot wait to relive the whole saga. And yeah, so as I mentioned about the packaging comes like this. You get your title, and on the other side you get a photo. And when you take it out, can't do this one hand, hang on. You get another picture. Oh yes, many pictures. And also a quote on the other side. I shouldn't be alive unless it was for a reason. Each quote is unique to its movie. So there's AntMan's quote, which is pretty cool. If you want to play a game, you can guess the quote for each movie if you want. The second one will be Captain Marvel, by the way. The reason I'm doing that is because I want Infinity War Endgame to be last anyway. And Captain Marvel took place in the 80s anyway, so I thought, let's just get that out of the way early. So yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp and Spider-Man Far From Home. I don't know when I'm going to watch them, but definitely before Endgame Infinity War. Doesn't really make sense, but I'm going to watch those 2 big movies last. But apart from that, I'm going to go in order, mostly. It's just those 3 movies that will be different places. And when you open it, you get an actual case. There's the 4K and there's a regular Blu-ray. Much better than cardboard sleeves. Brilliant. I'm just wondering, does it look better this way or this way? I feel like both of them look good. I remember watching Iron Man when it came out, not in cinemas. I think I watched it on DVD. Pretty sure it was DVD. And I remember that scene with Leslie Bibb, you know, the scene where Tony bangs a journalist, right? And I was like, what, 13 years old, I think? I was like 13 years old. For some reason, 13-year-old me got very excited by that scene. Nothing much even happens, they don't even show much, you know. 2 people get on a bed, a few kisses here and there, then they fall off the bed. That's it. 13-year-old me got excited over that. To be honest, this is a bit too inappropriate, but still, I just had to bring that up because every time I see that scene now, every time I rewatch this movie and I get to that scene, I think of 13-year-old me getting excited over it. Tony wants a cheeseburger. That reminds me of the funeral scene in Endgame. I'm sad now. Honestly though, that scene hits 10 times harder now, after Endgame. Does anyone remember the PSP game of Iron Man? Like there was an official game on PSP. And it was really good, I remember playing it. And part of the game is the escape scene out of the cave. So when I see the cave scene, it reminds me of playing the PSP game back in the day. Always nice to see Phil Coulson as an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan. I still don't understand why he never revealed himself to the Avengers. Like, as far as they know, they think he's dead. And he was alive afterwards. But he never told the Avengers about. I just don't get that part. And surely at least Thor would have found out, considering Lady Sif found out he was alive. Because she was in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. I don't know, I've always had that issue. Like, why would Phil Coulson not reveal himself if he was alive? It's weird. I definitely did it. What I just did not sound like the song, but when Iron Man suits up, when Tony suits up for the last time, when it's Mark III, when it's his final red and gold suit, oh my days, it's such a good scene first of all, and the theme song that plays in the background is unbelievable. I don't know how to pronounce his surname, but Ramin, you know, the guy who does the music, that theme song was unreal. And they pretty much stopped using it after the first Ant-Man movie, and I don't get it, because it's one of the best theme songs in the MCU, and they stopped using it after the first movie. I'm very disappointed by that, because it was a really cool theme song. So I swear I just heard someone laugh in the background of a movie. It sounds like someone in the production team laughed, and they didn't realise it and didn't edit it out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, right at the end, right, the final battle, when they both fly up into the sky, Tony says fly as far high as possible, he's on low battery, you know. Obadiah chases him in his suit, obviously, and they get into the air. Obadiah says, my suit's more powerful in every way, even though he's slower, but still. And then Tony says, how did you solve the icing problem? And then he just, and then Obadiah says, icing problem? Tony says, you might want to look into it, as he freezes up and starts falling. Tony bops his head, right? The moment Tony bops his head, listen carefully. When Obadiah starts falling, the moment he starts falling, you hear someone say ha 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 in the background. I replayed it a couple times to double check, and I do hear it. I watched it on YouTube, the scene on YouTube, I heard it again. Okay, someone laughed in the background. Unless it was Tony. Could have been Tony, but I don't think it was. Tony says, how'd you deal with the icing problem? You might want to look into it. Bops his head. Just a second after, you hear a laugh. I can't believe I never noticed that. I really can't. Alright, so for each sort of review of sorts, I'm going to mention my brief thoughts on the movie, and also, is it worth it in 4K? I'm excited to relive this Infinity Saga, but haven't seen it on this TV. There's a 4K OLED with Dolby Vision, you know, and HDR. This is, you know, this is some of the best quality you can ever get from a 4K Blu-ray. So I want to judge it on that as well. I've done marathons of this before, one that was on YouTube as well, and it was like a whole series. I'm going to try and keep this to one video, so it might be a long video, that's why I'm going to try and keep it brief, but also it's mainly about, is it worth it in 4K, while I also get to relive this amazing saga. So yeah, not every movie is good, unfortunately, but I love the overall story, and the Avengers movies, and even, you know, other movies as well, definitely make up for the bad movies like The Dark World, for example. So, Iron Man. For me, even to this day, it is the best solo origin movie in the MCU. The best origin movie in the MCU, in my opinion. It's so damn good. It kicked off the universe. It needed to work for the universe to work, and it worked. It was fantastic, and it started off this epic journey of the Infinity Saga, and I just loved what it did with this movie. Obadiah was not a very good villain, to be honest with you. One of the weaker points. That's the same story with most Marvel movies, to be honest. There's a lot of bad villains. But you can understand his motivations, but, you know, it's not too great. Apart from that, though, very good movie. Really enjoyed it. Is it worth it in 4K? No. It's 4K. It looks better. It looks nicer. But it's not a huge upgrade. It looks clearer, it looks nicer, it looks a bit more crisp, but it's not worth the 4K, if that makes sense. Like, if you were buying it individually, and it's £10 more for the 4K, is it worth that £10? No. Yes, I know you get the Blu-ray as well, the regular one, but is it worth the extra £10? I would say no. I would say you are good with the Blu-ray, that is more than good enough. But yeah, the 4K on Iron Man isn't, you know, isn't something that you need to upgrade for. Just saying. The only reason I have it is because I bought the whole collection on 4K, you know. That's a bit different, it's a box set. But I'm especially looking forward to seeing movies like Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, Endgame, even Age of Ultron, even though I didn't like the movie that much. It had great visuals. Black Panther, Civil War, Winter Soldier. I'm looking forward to a lot of these movies in 4K for sure. But other ones, we'll see. But with Iron Man, even though I love the movie, it's not worth the 4K upgrade. That's just what I got to say about that. So I'm doing Captain Marvel second, but here it is. Here's a picture. And there is another picture, of course. Groundbreaking stuff. I have nothing to prove to you. Surely there was a better code than this. I'm not sure about this one, to be honest. But yeah, it is what it is. And I'm looking forward to watching this right now. It's so cool seeing Blockbuster. You know, that's how you know the movie's taking part a long while ago. The movie's taking place a long while ago, I should say. Sorry. Young Nick Fury is quite something. A bit more reckless. Although obviously he's at the end of the movie, but I do hate how he loses his eye. Like, really? A cat scratched him? Really? That was the serious reason why he lost his eye? Really? Really? A young Coulson is also a sight to behold. You know, I think the biggest problem with this movie is that it goes too slow. That's my main issue with it. It goes way too slow. I feel like they could have paced it a lot better. And I even feel like the storyline could have been better as well. Like, they had potential to do something great here. They're supposed to be like, I mean, they're supposed to bring her up as, you know, one of the strongest Marvel heroes, at least in the MCU anyway. But they don't really showcase that as much. Like, I remember the scene towards the end where she goes into space, fights those ships. Probably the best part of the movie. But yeah, that's just a fight scene. Aside from that, story-wise, I think they could have gone a better route, for sure. I think they could have done something really cool, but they kind of missed the mark for me. But yeah, the main thing is it's too slow, at least for me anyway. Talos is a funny guy. Ben Mendelsohn did a good job of playing this character. I really hope that Captain Marvel 2 shows a lot more of her powers. Obviously it's an origin story, so it makes sense. She didn't really get unleashed until the final battle, but I mean, I don't think that was a flaw in the movie. I just felt like it was too slow, and this was right before Endgame as well, so I kind of expected more. But in the second one, now that she has her powers, I really hope we get to see something awesome for sure. Because her fight scenes at the end were really good. So I'm watching them right now. Really good fight scenes at the end. I want to see more of that. Yeah, so Captain Marvel was okay. I didn't love it, didn't hate it. I just thought it was okay. I thought it was a mid-term movie. I think it could have been a lot better. But it could have been a lot worse as well. There was certainly faults there, but there were some cool bits, but most of them came towards the end of the movie. There were some funny bits as well. But yeah, I think, like, in terms of like the plot, it sounded good, but the execution wasn't there. Story-wise, it definitely could have done a lot better, and I think it was too slow at times, for sure. Is it worth it in 4K? No. The Blu-ray's fine. This one, again, just like AntMan, it looks better. Sure, I mean, it's 4K, it should look better, but it's not worth the upgrade. It looks nicer, but I personally wouldn't spend an extra £10 on 4K. I'd be happy with Blu-ray. Also, I wonder where the cat went after this movie. He didn't go with Captain Marvel, he stayed on Earth, so where was the cat in future movies? Just asking the serious questions here. Back to the normal order, it's the Incredible Hulk time. Oh yes. I wonder what the quote is going to be. Let's find out after we see what the picture is. Here is... ah yes, this is iconic. Well, maybe not iconic, but memorable. I always remember this picture from this movie. Anyway, yeah, Hulk smash. Okay, you know what? That is perfect. Simple, but this is the Hulk. That's what he says. So, good job with the quote. My word, that is the most high quality photo I've seen of this shot. What on earth? So, I just finished watching the movie. Didn't really talk through that, but I did enjoy it. This movie is not as bad as people say. It's certainly not great. It's not a masterpiece or anything, but you know, it's pretty good for what it is. Is it worth it in 4K? I would say maybe. There are some shots, especially of the Hulk, that look really good in 4K. Like, really good. I've been quite impressed by some of the 4K in this movie, for sure. And the opening sequence as well looked quite nice, with the credits and stuff. But yeah, the action scenes, the scenes that involved him turning into Hulk, and him as Hulk, good 4K. Good 4K. But one thing I've always had a problem with is the fact that Betty Ross was never mentioned after that movie. I think she was mentioned, but she never turned up again, which I always thought was weird. I know they changed the casting. Edward Norton was a good Hulk, I think. Mark Ruffalo was a good Hulk for a bit. It's just that later on down the line, he wasn't so good. But Edward Norton, for what he did in this movie, he played a good Hulk. I just wish we would have got a solo Mark Ruffalo Hulk movie just to have a proper comparison, because I think it would have been good if we saw him have that solo movie. And it also would have been good to see Edward Norton in the Avengers movie as well. Would have been interesting to see how he would do in that, because in the Avengers movie, the first one, Mark Ruffalo was really good. So yeah, you know, swings and roundabouts, it is what it is. Things happened. I don't even know the exact story, but you know, things happened, the casting went differently, and I guess we all moved on. But yeah, Edward Norton I think did a good job in this movie, for sure. Iron Man 2. Well, it's had to be watched at some point. What is the quote? Actually, you know what, photo first. Right, that is the photo on the back of the cover, and on the front. Okay, you know what? That's actually quite a good photo. That's not bad. That's actually not bad. I already told you I don't want to join your super secret boy band. Surely there's a better quote than that, but okay. I forgot that Elon Musk was in this movie. Crazy how far he's come since then. Black Widow's introduction is one of the good things about this movie. And there are not many good things about this movie. It's crazy how many Easter eggs there are, I guess. Or just, you know, how many Avengers there are at least mentioned, you know. War Machine has got his suit. Black Widow's been introduced. Captain America's shield is in this. Obviously the after credit scene is Thor's hammer. So yeah, there's quite a few things in there. But that's the problem, you see. This movie is a setup. It's more of a setup than an actual Iron Man movie. The villain is underwhelming. The villain's just not very good, to be honest. Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, I felt like the movie suffered because it was setting up future movies. And that's my thoughts on it. It's nowhere near over, and I'm already telling you my thoughts. And of course Nick Fury's in this, and Jarvis obviously becomes Vision eventually. So yeah, a lot of Avengers, at the very least, you know, introduced or mentioned. Alright, so yeah, I've said what I thought. It's not a very good movie, aside from the few Easter eggs and a few introductions here and there. It just wasn't a very good movie. Is it worth it in 4K? To be fair, the 4K was quite impressive in this. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it looks nice. Some of the sequences look nice for sure. I will say that. But the movie's so bad, it's just like, is it worth buying it in 4K? I don't know. But the 4K didn't look too bad, to be fair. I did not expect to like the 4K in this one and Incredible Hulk more than Iron Man 1 and Captain Marvel, but here we are. Anyway, I gotta go and sleep, but then when I get back to this, I'll be watching Thor. Alright, here is the case. Very blue, arguably more colourful than the actual movie, but here we go. There is a mountain. For some reason I think Lord of the Rings, even though it looks nothing like Lord of the Rings, but you know, sometimes I get the vibes. Or even Game of Thrones vibes, but a lot less adult content. Anyway, yeah, here is the picture from the case, which is quite nice, you know, it's not too bad. And the quote is, "Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor." Good choice. Bit long, but good choice. The scene between Loki and Odin, where they argue, where Loki finds out what he is, and Odin has a heart attack. Best scene in the movie by far. One of the best scenes in the MCU, actually. It's a really good scene. Loki is a massive part of the good things about this movie. There's also some good comedy as well. When Thor first arrives on Earth, when he doesn't understand the customs of Earth, there's some pretty funny scenes there, but Loki's emotional scenes, I think, steal the show for sure. Has it ever been explained how Thor arrives on Earth in the Avengers, considering the Bifrost got destroyed in this movie? Is it ever explained? Or is it just a big unexplained plot hole? So this movie for me is average at best, unfortunately. I wanted to like it, but I feel like every time I watch it, it kind of gets a bit more bland, to be honest with you. Loki is one of the best parts of it, one of the good parts of it. There's some funny bits, but overall, it doesn't hit the mark, and I feel it's quite bland as well. And is it worth it in 4K? Well, I feel the colours stand out a bit more in the 4K version for sure, and it does definitely look better. But I don't know if I know I'm judging it on the 4K rather than the content of the movie, but I don't know if I'd recommend getting this on 4K, to be honest with you. But it does look like an improvement on the Blu-ray. It does look a bit better, but it doesn't quite save the movie. So yeah, it is what it is. Moving on to Captain America, the First Avenger. Alright, so we have got Captain America, the First Avenger, right here. Don't know why it's green, to be honest. Like, it's not the colour you associate with him, but it is what it is. There is an interesting photo, and here is... oh, what is this? Okay, well, it's in the war. That's interesting. Interesting choice. Interesting choice. I can do this all day, okay? Fair enough. That fits, considering how it's used in the MCU in the future. The picture on that cover, the others were all better. This is the second movie I'm watching today. The first time in this watch through, because my day off work. Could have watched 3, but had videos to record, so it is what it is. As I'm recording this, Godzilla vs. Kong comes out in 2 days in the UK. So, a couple days, I'm going to be stopping on this rewatch and watching that movie. If I like it more than once. But hopefully the week after that movie Monday, which I do Monday for Godzilla vs. Kong, hopefully the week after that, this watch through is complete. Hopefully. I got this weekend off, so I'll use that. I don't know how to really explain this, but I feel like this is the first movie in the MCU that feels premium. I can't really explain what that means, but I hope you know what I mean. This is the first one that feels properly premium. Like, the first AntMan was a better movie, for sure, but this is the first one that feels like it's huge, like it's part of the bigger universe, if that makes sense. Even though it's largely standalone. If you don't get it, don't worry. I'm just talking to myself at this point. I just got to that scene. Don't do anything stupid until you get back. How can I? You're taking all the stupid with you. If you know, you know. Endgame also uses that quote at a certain point in the movie. Endgame really, like, took something from literally every movie and added in references constantly. Like, that movie was fan service central, it really was. And you notice a lot of those quotes as you rewatch the MCU as well. You're just like, wow, Endgame really they brought up everything for the past 11 years. It's mad. The fact that Howard Stark is very important in terms of making Steve into Captain America. Technically, he made Captain America and Iron Man, when you think about it. So when that Hydra agent tries to steal the super soldier serum and tries to get away, his getaway driver is Freddie Roscoe. If you don't know who that is, then don't worry. English people will get what I mean, get who I'm talking about. Well, English people watch Hollyoaks anyway. I just heard that iconic phrase, "on your left," except it was from a random soldier during the scene where Captain America breaks out a bunch of their allies from a Hydra camp. I guess that's the first use of "on your left," a random soldier. So the scene where they took down that Hydra base and they tried to escape, Steve and Bucky, and the bridge broke apart, so Steve had to make a big jump. I noticed that theme song, like the part of his theme song where he fights Thanos, like right at the start of that scene in Endgame when he starts to fight Thanos. Do 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 do. Noticed it in this. The ending is quite emotional. So we're just at the end now after he crashes that aircraft into the ice. This 4K looks really good, you know. It looks really good. It's some of the most impressive 4K I've seen so far in this rewatch of the MCU. So this movie I don't think was that great. I don't dislike it either, I just think it's fine. Obviously I said Captain Marvel was okay. This is better than Captain Marvel. But this one it's just fine. I think it could have been a lot better. I think it's the weakest of the Captain America movies. It's also better than half Phase 1, probably. Red Skull is actually quite a good villain. He's not too bad. Like, Red Skull as a villain, I think it worked for this particular movie. And it was crazy to see him back in Endgame, of course, in a future movie. But yeah, Red Skull was fine, I think. Marvel's villains were, for the most part, were very weak for the first 2 phases. They started to improve them in the back end of Phase 3. Then Thanos came along, he was great, but you know, they struggled with good villains for a while, Marvel. But Red Skull wasn't too bad. No, he wasn't too bad. There's a lot of good scenes in here. Some good action scenes. A few funny scenes here and there. I like the interactions between Steve and Peggy as well. That's all great. Howard Stark obviously is in this. There's a lot of good things about it, but I just don't think it's that great. I just don't think it's on the level of the better MCU movies. But it's also better than quite a few of them as well. It's just, it's okay. But better than Captain Marvel, okay. This is like a bit more. You know, it's okay, but it's not like amazing. It's just fine. It's a good watch, but the other two Captain America movies definitely a lot better for sure. Is it worth it in 4K? Well, yeah, I would say so. To be fair, the 4K in this was good, especially if you like this movie. You probably like it in 4K. So yeah, this was definitely good. So next up is the Avengers, which I can't watch right now, but obviously for you guys it will be in a second. Okay, it is time for the grand finale of Phase 1, Avengers Assemble, or otherwise known as the Avengers in some countries. But yeah, there's the picture. Interesting. I wish we got a team picture here. But yeah, we got Tony, all based on Tony. If we can't protect the Earth, you can be damn well sure to avenge it. Okay, not bad. I'm just wondering why it's purely focused on Tony. I know he's the main guy, but still, it's the Avengers movie, innit? Anyway, let's do this. You know, I'm only 12 minutes in. I've only seen the opening sequence, and the 4K already looks delightful. It really stands out. I think The Incredible Hulk so far is the only other movie where I was just like, straight away I was just like, oh, this 4K looks nice. I really love how the team comes together in this movie. Like the way it happens. It's so good. I love team ups. So like, this was elite. Another thing that's elite is the Snyder Cut. And the way they brought Justice League together, and that was great too. I love teams coming together. It's so good. When it's done right, it's great. The final battle is about to begin. Every time I see this movie, I love the final battle. Like, it's what, 30-40 minutes long? It's just half an hour of craziness, and I love it. Wait, hang on. This guy, this cop, he's Peggy Carter's friend in the TV show Agent Carter. Marvel made a TV show about Peggy from Captain America, and he's sort of a love interest in that show. He's a friend of hers. That's him. Okay, well, it's not the only time they've used the same actor for two different roles. Never noticed that until now. It's crazy. I also literally just noticed that Tony Stark calls Hawkeye Legolas. Lord of the Rings reference. He calls him Legolas. I never noticed that reference. I know they've referenced other franchises before, like in plenty of their movies, but I didn't realize he called Hawkeye Legolas. I just noticed some emotional music that appeared in Endgame. For some reason I thought Endgame was the first time I heard that, but it was actually in the Avengers movie, the first one. I think I just need better memory. I think the fact that the government willingly launched a nuke at New York just to stop the invasion, which would have been in vain, by the way, because it wouldn't have stopped the portal. They were going to nuke New York, right, to save the world. The fact that that happened shows why the Sokovia Accords were wrong in the Civil War. Like, I feel like Tony should have been smart enough to know to not trust the government. Just saying. So yeah, I love this movie. Every time I watch it, it's just really enjoyable. I remember watching it in the cinemas for the first time, and it was just a great experience. That's probably the best experience. But yeah, watching it again and again it's great. It's a great time. This movie's a great time, and it's a good combination of the previous 5 movies in the series. So yeah, and the way they brought the team together was great. I could go on and on, but yeah, I definitely love it, and I would highly recommend this movie. Is it good in 4K? Yes, the 4K is really good. The 4K is crisp, it's elite, looks nice. So yeah, I recommend it. So we've done Phase 1 now, and the best 4K was this, Avengers Assemble. Although Incredible Hulk and Captain America First Avenger had some pretty good 4K as well. Iron Man 2 surprisingly did too, which surprised me a bit. But yeah, I guess next up is Iron Man 3, yes. I remember the order, it just blanked my mind. Alright, it is time for Iron Man 3, the start of the second phase. Here is the picture, which is a pretty cool picture. Here is the picture from the cover, which is good, And the quote is, "You can take away my house, all my tricks and toys, but one thing you can't take away, I am Iron Man." They picked a good quote for this movie, I can tell you that. Here's a question I don't think I've asked about this movie, right? Stark gives away his address to the Mandarin, right? And the villains eventually attack, and they bomb his house. wouldn't the government be smart enough to have people at the ready to catch him? When you think about it, wouldn't the government have military nearby just in case he goes to Stark? Obviously he didn't go to Stark himself, but some of the villains did. Surely would have been smart for the military to be there. Oh look, all these bombs are going off, we need to catch these terrorists. There's a serious threat, they're threatening our presidents. They might go to Tony Stark's house. Let's not send anyone to his house. Yes, because that's smart. The more I think about it, the more I think, okay, surely they would have had soldiers there. The dynamic between Tony and that kid in this movie, with the way they help each other out, I felt was one of the better parts of this movie, for sure. And also, that kid was at the funeral in Endgame. I didn't even realise that until after the movie. I realised it when there were articles about it. I'm just like, wait, that was the kid from Ant-Man 3? And I think it's confirmed now as well. And yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense, considering what happens in this movie. But I was still surprised to see him there, but yeah, it makes sense. But, again, one of the better parts of this movie for sure. I love how there's a Champions League game between Chelsea and Liverpool playing in the background of a scene. That was just really funny. I'm pretty sure I had Peter Drury commentary as well. Pretty nostalgic for me, from when I watched Champions League when I was younger on ITV1. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the Mandarin twist. Just every time I see it, it's just, it never gets better for me. I don't like the Mandarin twist. The scene where he saves 13 people from that plane crash. Well, it's more than a plane crash, it's an attack on the Air Force One. But when he saves those 13 people who fall out of the plane, that's a good scene. That's a really good scene. The way Pepper takes out that Iron Man suit and then kills the Mandarin. That was badass. That was badass. We didn't see enough badass moments from her in the MCU. Like, it was just this scene and Endgame. Right, so it's just finished. I'm not a huge fan of this movie, but it is an improvement on Iron Man 2 for sure. Nowhere near as good as the first one. There were good parts in it, but at the end of the day, I'm not a huge fan of this movie. I think it was all over the place in a way. I think they put a little too much in it. I think the Mandarin twist was the main thing though, that disappointed me a little bit. But overall, you know, there were some enjoyable bits. It's not completely like, it's not like it's boring. It's fun. Action scenes are fun. But I feel like the storyline could have been a lot better, and they could have done something different, I think, with the Mandarin, for sure. So, yeah, is the 4K worth it? Honestly, this is the first movie where I'm just like, I'm not sure I notice much of a difference, to be honest. Like, I feel like this isn't that much different than regular Blu-ray. Like, the others all look better. Like, they look 4K, but this one, yeah, it's 4K, but it's the least noticeable to me, at least. It's just the least noticeable 4K. I just don't see much of a difference. But yeah, there we go. On to Thor: The Dark World, which I am dreading the most because it's the worst one. Alright, here's the case. I love the nice purple. It's good. Purple seems to be a good colour for posters. Here is Loki and Thor talking to each other, obviously. Okay, I mean, it won't slide out. Well done, David. Great, very smooth video. The quote is, "You lied to me, I'm impressed." Was there not a better quote? I'm talking about this movie, actually. There probably wasn't many good quotes. There's not many good things about this one. It's quite crazy how Zachary Levi's in this. Shazam! I love the scene where Thor takes London Underground in the final battle. As a Londoner, seeing a Marvel superhero take the London Underground in the scene is quite cool. Yes, it is over. That is a victory. So as you can tell, I'm not a fan of this movie. It's the worst in the MCU easily. And the less said, the better. Is the 4K worth it? Absolutely not. Nothing in this movie is, apart from a few things here and there. Moving on to a much better movie, The Winter Soldier. The contrast between this and The Winter Soldier. Like, how can you go from such a bad movie to such a great one? Here we have a truly glorious movie. Captain America, the Winter Soldier. There is the picture. That's a pretty good picture. And we have the shield. Well, Cap as well. That's a good photo. And the quote is, "Before we get started, didn't want to get out." Yes, this one from the elevator scene. What a scene that was. I remember watching this in the cinema, and I was mind blown. Like, I watched it in IMAX. It was one of my first IMAX experiences. Oh my word, was it a good movie. They made Captain America 10 times more badass than he was before. Like, they made him so much cooler in that movie. The Russos. It was their first movie in the MCU, and obviously they went on to direct Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame as well. If this movie didn't work, then, you know, they might not have got to direct the other 3 big movies, you know? Who knows how the MCU would have gone. So it's great. This is an important movie in the MCU. Like, it had to work, not just for the franchise, but also for the Russos. Like, they directed this and they went on to direct Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame. It's awesome. If you're wondering how I changed shirts, well, I went to go and live stream in between. So for me, this is the best solo movie in the MCU. For me, easily. You know, I might not even talk through this that much, or not even at all, because this is the sort of movie that has me hooked and I love it. So I might just sit back and enjoy this. On your left, and it's over. This movie's so good, man. Honestly, I think it was the best movie in the MCU until Infinity War. Infinity War, I think, overtook it, but until that point, I think this was the best one. Still the best solo movie, and easily like top 3 MCU movies. For me, it really is that good. I also like how this movie is one of the more serious ones. I don't mind Marvel's comedic tone. I think in a lot of movies it really works, like it suits Marvel, but I also appreciate when they get serious, and this movie is some of the most serious stuff you get in the MCU. It's espionage, it's really cool, like a spy movie. I just like how it's done. So yeah, not much more needs to be said. I'm going to give this a rating. I haven't given a rating to the rest of them, but this one will be a 9 out of 10. But is it worth it in 4K? You know what? As awesome as the movie was, it's not really worth the upgrade. I think on Blu-ray it's still fine. I mean, any movie looks good on Blu-ray, to be honest. It's high enough quality, but I mean, like, the 4K isn't like a significant difference. There's a difference, it's just not that significant. You don't need to buy the 4K to, you know, get the best out of this movie. I feel the Blu-ray is enough. But yeah, fantastic movie either way. Now it's time for yet another awesome movie, Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, I'm supposed to do that last. Anyway, the picture first. There we go. There is the orb, otherwise known as the Power Stone. Actually, the Power Stone's inside the orb, but still, you get the point. There is the picture, very orange, quite nice. And the quote is VR Groot. Good quote. The opening scene really hits hard, man. It's a really depressing scene. This for me is one of the best MCU movies as well, so I'm probably going to just be hooked onto it the whole time. So you won't hear me talking much, but yeah, it's such a good movie. And honestly, like, when I first saw it in cinemas, it was like a month and a half late. Like, the first few movies in Phase 1, Iron Man I watched on DVD, Incredible Hulk, I think, did I watch it in cinemas or DVD? I can't remember. I think I watched Iron Man 2 in cinemas. I can't remember either, I might have. I missed Thor, that I can tell you, but Captain America First Avenger was the first one where I properly started watching more movies, like, from the start, when it came out in cinemas. But with Guardians, when I saw the trailers, I was just like, this is weird, I don't want to see this. I'm not interested. But yeah, I waited like a month, and a lot of people said it was good. So I thought, hey, a month and a half later, I'll check it out. And I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that's a story for you. But yeah, what a great movie it was. I can't believe they came up with something so random, and it worked. And it works so well. It's unbelievable. I also think a big reason why it worked was because it felt so different from the rest of the MCU. I feel like them trying something different, trying something new, something original, taking a risk with something. I think that's part of why it worked. Also had a good story and great characters and some funny comedy as well. And Thanos was in there for a few minutes. You have Ronan, a guy who's working for Thanos, with Thanos' 2 daughters as well. Infinity Stones explained as well. They had a few important things in there for sure that made it great, but also the fact that it was different, the fact that it stood out also helped a lot, I think. This movie's so good, man. It's crazy how this actually worked. Like, how did this work? How did a movie this random work? It just did. You know, Guardians 2 actually takes place a few months after the first one. So I could watch it next, but I won't. I'll wait till, like, release date order. Guardians was great. And the 4K, is it worth it in 4K? Yes, it is. It's really good 4K. There's some really nice looking sequences. It sounds nice. Yeah, this is good 4K. I recommend this in 4K. Might be the best 4K I've seen so far. Like, it's genuinely been that good. This is really good 4K. That's all I will say. Moving on. So I actually watched this movie on April the 4th, and coincidentally, it was the 7-year anniversary of the movie. That's a crazy coincidence. I literally watched it on that exact day as well. That's pretty crazy. Alright, Age of Ultron is next, of course. This is the picture. Okay, interesting. Interesting. You have Ultron as the picture on the case. I always struggle to get these out. I slide it out slightly to make it easier and it still doesn't work. Anyway, there is Ultron. He's a cool looking villain, but underwhelming. I'll get to that in my review. And peace in our time. Okay, I do remember that quote, so fair enough. It is time to watch the weakest Avengers movie. But to be fair, there's some good action in it, so I still enjoy it. The hammer lifting scene is good, especially considering Cap almost lifts it. And apparently, I think Russo said he always could. But the point is, they teased it from this movie, and we got the payoff in the endgame as well, years later, so... they planted the seed in this movie, which is nice. I'm pretty sure that before Tony smashes Hulk through that skyscraper that's being in construction, I'm pretty sure he said just before, how quickly can I buy this building? I'm pretty sure he said that. Billionaires these days. Whenever I see Hawkeye's wife, or whenever I see her in any movie really, I always think back to the same character, Velma from Scooby-Doo. Every time I see her, that's what I automatically think of. Vision lifting Thor's hammer is quite a moment, man. I remember being so shocked in the cinema. I was just like, what? What? I also kind of wish Natasha was there to see that, but the Avengers' reactions to that was crazy as well. And also, Wanda met Vision for the first time there. I need to watch WandaVision. So as I've mentioned, I feel this is the weakest Avengers movie. The other three obviously great. This one I don't think is that good. I don't think it's that special. Maybe it's because I expected a lot from it after the first one, but it's a sequel that just was underwhelming, I felt. And it's mainly because of the villain. Ultron I felt was underwhelming. If you look at the teaser trailer, where they tease this dark, sinister villain, There Are No Strings on Me, that crazy trailer. Based on that trailer, what we actually got in the movie was something not as good. The comedy, the humor, that suits the Avengers. Like that's who the Avengers are. It's part of their tone. It's part of their characters. They like to use humor, so that's fine. But every time Ultron cracked a joke, it was just really cringy because he was supposed to be this dark villain. And look at Thanos, for example. You know, look at Killmonger. Serious villains. They were teased as serious, and they were serious. This guy seemed like he wanted to be a comedian at times. Ultron could have been done a lot better in my opinion. He was quite cool in some ways. Like, he wasn't completely awful. He wasn't terrible, but as a villain he wasn't that good. He was underwhelming. And I think the fact he cracked jokes so much compared to the trailers, that was just like, what's going on here? What's happening? This movie also felt like a setup movie as well. Like it was setting up the Avengers falling apart, setting up Civil War, setting up Infinity War and Endgame. It also set up solo movies like Thor Ragnarok and Black Panther. You know, it was planting the seeds, which is fine. You'd expect Marvel movies to do that, but they overdid it in this one, in my opinion. There's a lot of things they set in motion in this movie, for sure. And they also set up, you know, the interest between Wanda and Vision as well. There's a lot of things in there. The story, I mean, doing Ultron definitely could have worked, but I don't feel it worked that well. Although the action scenes are fun, it's still a fun movie to watch at times. The comedy is fine, especially the banter between the Avengers. That's the Captain language stuff, amongst other things. That's cool. You know, that's part of who the Avengers are. That's awesome. But Ultron being comedic did not work for me, not one bit. But it is what it is. They made a mistake. They made mistakes in this movie. We move on. It's great that we eventually got movies like Infinity War and Endgame anyway. So yeah, I would still rewatch this movie because it has good action scenes and some funny banter. But as a movie, it's not good compared to other movies. That's just my opinion. And is it worth it in 4K? Yes, it looks good in 4K. It looks good in 4K. Regardless of what you think of the movie, the 4K is nice. The action sequences look good, and I felt 4K wise, the quality looks better than the first Avengers movie. But yeah, I just don't think highly of the movie itself, but it is what it is. I do like parts of it. I do enjoy quite a lot of it. There's just a few key things that disappoint me a little bit, but again, it is what it is. Next up is AntMan, which weirdly ends Phase 2. But also, it's like a comedic bridge in between Age of Ultron and Civil War. So, you know, it's something you can appreciate. He also has one of the best theme songs in the MCU, surprisingly enough. It sounds like a spy theme song, which is quite cool. So yeah, that's up next, and then it's Civil War, so I'm excited for that. Next up is Ant-Man, of course, like I just mentioned. There is the picture, and once I get this open, there is the little man himself, who is also medium-sized in this photo. I'm Ant-Man. What? You haven't heard of me? Is that from the scene where he fights Falcon in the Avengers facility? I think it is. The yellow jacket suit is really good. Like, really good. So the movie is just coming to an end. The final battle was just finished, and I'll tell you my thoughts already. This movie is pretty good. It's not great, it's not amazing, not a masterpiece, not even close, but it's also not terrible, it's not bad. It's not average, it's better than average, it's better than okay. It's pretty good. It's not solid good, but it's pretty good. It's a fun, high sort of movie, something a little bit different. It's a nice comedic watch, and Michael Peña's character, for example, is quite funny. There's some good things in it for sure, and some serious bits as well, but for the most part, fun movie. And the concept of Ant-Man is really like interesting as well. It's pretty cool. They took an idea that should be stupid and they turned it into something that worked in a movie, which is awesome to see. Marvel have been known for bringing up characters that are not so big and making them bigger on the big screen, and they had a good track record of that already at this point, and they did it again with Ant-Man as well. Maybe not on the same level as, like, you know, the other superheroes in the Avengers, but still did a pretty good job. Is it worth it in 4K? Surprisingly, yes. This is really good 4K. Like, from the start, I'm just like, this is good picture quality, it looks nice, it sounds good. This is good 4K. I approve of the 4K version of this, for sure. Next up is Civil War, which is one of my favourites as well. And here is the picture. Captain America based, very nice. And, ooh, Spider-Man and the Falcon. That's a good shot. I appreciate that, that's good. I don't know if you've ever been in a fight before, but there's usually not this much talking. From this, okay, good. I kind of expected it to say, he's my friend, so was I, you know, that serious quote, but this will do. So you probably won't hear much from me during this movie, because this is one of the MC movies that has me hooked throughout. It's really good. I love how it's really serious as well, one of the more serious MCU movies. And yeah, it just has me into it the whole time, every time I see it. So yeah, see you after the movie. I absolutely love this movie, man. Every time I see it, it's just awesome. It's a thrill ride, it's a roller coaster of emotions. I think that's a good way to describe it. As I said, one of the more serious MCU movies, and it's done so well, you know. Versus movies are tough to do, and it tends to end up in, you know, the two versus sides teaming up. This one really breaks apart the Avengers, you know. It stays a versus movie, at times a team up, but mostly a versus. The airport battle was crazy, and that wasn't even the main battle of the movie, that was just a mid battle to get to the main battle. The main battle, which involved a lot less heroes, was crazy. It was brutal and brilliant how it was done. Zemo was an interesting villain. I didn't love him, but, you know, the villain, he won. He did win, if you think about it. His plan needed he needed convenience to make his plan work, to be honest. A lot of convenience, but still, he set out a plan to break apart the Avengers, and, you know, he set that plan in motion, and he succeeded. And in the end, Thanos came down, and the Avengers were not united, and he divided and conquered. They did the dividing for themselves, I guess. Then Thanos came in and got an easy win on Earth. But yeah, this movie has a lot of consequences for future movies with the Accords and everything else. It's pretty crazy. Although the Accords kind of don't matter anymore after like Infinity War, technically. The Accords are still a thing, right? So what do they do with it? They just stop monitoring? That might be a plot hole, to be honest. And also, we had the introduction of Spider-Man and Black Panther in this. Obviously, we know Spider-Man. Everybody knows Spider-Man, but the introduction of the MC version of Spider-Man, Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and obviously Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther debuted in this as well. And he wasn't as popular, but became a lot more popular on the big screen, which was great to see. And rest in peace, of course. But yeah, With those new additions and with, you know, adding Ant-Man into the mix as well, there was a lot of good things with all these heroes that were done. But despite having so many Avengers in it and so many new superheroes in this movie, it was still a Captain America movie. It was still a sequel to Winter Soldier. They somehow added all those characters in and still made it about Bucky and Cap, you know, and that was good as well. And this was the movie that I think where the Russos proved that they could handle all these characters together. Winter Soldier, I think, proved they could make a great movie, and this one I think proved they could really balance out all the heroes. Apart from Vision, he was underused in this one, to be honest, especially in the airport battle. But I felt like this movie, if we didn't get this movie and Winter Soldier, maybe the Russos would not have directed Infinity War and Endgame, and those would have been different movies. So it's good that things worked out the way they did, for sure. Anyway, is it worth it in 4K? Yes, absolutely. It looks very nice. It looks good. Good picture quality. Some sequences look amazing in it, and yeah, I recommend the 4K version of this for sure. Next up is Doctor Strange, which I quite enjoy as well. Ah yes, here we are, the Sorcerer Supreme to be. That is the photo. Very interesting. There is Doctor Strange. You know, this movie feels a lot like Magic Iron Man. I'm talking about plot points. Same with Ant-Man, actually. Ant-Man also has a similar plot to this in Iron Man, which MCU gets criticized for recurring themes. But yeah, I guess it works with this one though. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. I know they say this quote so many times in this movie, it's fair enough. Okay, I understand. So it's Friday night. I've just started watching Doctor Strange, and I've come to the realization that I cannot finish this by Monday. I'd have to watch 8 movies in 2 days, and I'm working both days, so that's a no-go. But you will see this the week after it's meant to be out, or the week after that, considering I got a Godzilla 2014 episode I want to do. So I got time, but I'm enjoying watching these. It's just a shame there's so many of them because I can't watch them all in one go, but it is what it is. It's also WrestleMania weekend, so I won't be watching any movies this weekend anyway. But still, we'll get there. We'll get there soon enough. So I have trouble coping with like serious injury, even in movies. So the fact that this movie has a lot of like surgeries with a bit of detail there makes me feel a bit uneasy. You know, it's not that bad in this, you know. I'm fine. But yeah, sometimes I get a bit lightheaded from seeing blood or injury or stuff, so the fact that there's about a surgeon is quite something. Especially the one when he gets stabbed in the heart, basically, and he has to get operated on straight away. It's crazy. But yeah, I'm still watching it, but I do like this movie overall. It's about a guy he's a surgeon who's the best surgeon. He can fix almost anything, and he's so arrogant, but he gets into a car crash and he loses the nerves in his hands, so he's constantly shaking. You know, it's one of those situations where the doctors can do nothing, but he felt that he could have done better than the doctors would. But obviously he can't treat himself, and he spends all his money on these expensive treatments trying to find the cure, and it just never happens for him. And yeah, he falls out with his friend Christine, and yeah, everything just goes wrong for him. But then obviously he meets the Ancient One, and he learns to be a sorcerer, learns his powers, and in the process becomes a more humble person and a better person for it, because he was very arrogant. He was a prick, a real prick. But over the movie he gradually just, you know, became a much better character. Benedict Cumberbatch though, what a casting. What a casting. Obviously a great actor, but he's a good casting for Doctor Strange. You know, Marvel gets a lot of their castings right, you know, in general. Like, they're very good at it, and this is another good example. He's really good, you know. The only other person I could see playing this character is Robert Downey Jr., but obviously he's already Iron Man anyway, so but still, this is very good casting. This movie is so trippy, man. It's crazy. Imagine being drunk watching this movie. Another thing about how his character changes, the other doctor called Nick, he's such a prick to Nick at the start. I know that rhymes, but he doesn't really trust Nick to do certain operations, and he embarrasses him in a way because Nick pronounces someone dead but Steven ends up saving him, but Steven acts so arrogant and cocky about it. But later on in the movie, he lets Nick do a big procedure on the Ancient One, so you know, growth, because Nick ain't a bad doctor. Not as good as Strange, but he's not a bad surgeon. I really like how they tried something different with the final battle, because usually, you know, there's a final battle. In this one, it's more of a time loop thing, and the way the villain is defeated is very different to other MC movies, and I appreciate them trying something different, and I feel it worked. It's not a great movie, but it's good. I feel it was quite a solid movie, and I think it works really well. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Next up is Guardians 2, which I have an unpopular opinion on. Stay tuned. The after credit scene of Thor is just so, and I just love it. It's one of my favourite after credit scenes. Anyway, is it worth it in 4K? I forgot to mention. Yes, it looks good. Some of the trippy scenes especially looked really good in 4K. There's some good sequences here for sure. It's a very strange movie, so to speak, but yeah, the 4K in some sequences looks nice. So here is the cover, nice bright blue. There's the planets, reference to Ego, of course. There's Yondu. This was that Mary Poppins scene, which is quite a funny scene, to be fair. I'm Mary Poppins, Joe. Okay, that's the quote. So first of all, the 4K looks nice. The opening scene, the visuals, the scenery looks very nice. I was actually disappointed by this movie when I saw it. I kind of found it more underwhelming than Age of Ultron in some ways. Yeah, might be unpopular because I remember a lot of people like this movie. A lot of people loved Guardians of the Galaxy too. I liked the first half quite a lot, but I felt like the movie was all over the place a bit too much. Exploring Peter's father, I think, was the right way to go, and they explored Rocket a bit more as well. Baby Groot was great. There were some good things there, but overall, I felt the story was just. I just think it could have been better, and I think they put too much in it as well. And also the humour is over the top. Like humour, even over the top humour, it suits Marvel and it suits the Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, like the first movie, that was perfect humour. But this one I felt was over the top, even for the Guardians, even for Marvel. This one went insane. I think Batista's insane laugh during the movie kind of sums up the humour of this movie. It was just over the top and just not as funny as it thinks it is, and it kind of threw me off, you know. It's not all the humour. There are some funny bits in there, sure, but a lot of the humour here and there I'm not really a big fan of. This opening scene though, when they're defending this thing, they're defending the batteries, this is a good scene, but I feel like this movie deteriorates over time. I think I mentioned exploring Peter's father. That's the right way to go with this movie, but the ideas were good. The execution I don't think was good enough, and I felt like the climax suffered. So that's my thoughts, and I watched the movie, and I'll tell you at the end if my thoughts have changed. It does look nice in 4K though, jeez. Like, this movie's colourful, and Baby Groot, the close-ups of Baby Groot, it looks even cuter somehow. I'm impressed by the 4K. I've only seen the opening scene. Not so impressed by the movie, but I might enjoy the quality of this, jeez. I feel like these gold people didn't need to be in the movie. I feel like they're just there to be a distraction to the team, basically. They're just there. Although introducing Adam Warlock at the end, sort of introducing him, teasing him, was kind of cool. And that part was cool, but apart from that, not a fan of the gold people. Isn't it kind of funny how Yondu was in a room with what I assume were prostitutes in a Marvel movie? When I first saw that, I was just like, oh, okay. Marvel doing this now? What's going on here? Is it because they're alien? People won't see it as a bad thing, or what's going on? It's great to see a legend like Sylvester Stallone be in a movie like this, like be in a Marvel movie. That's just awesome. I honestly feel that Yondu was the best part of this movie. Like Yondu's story arc, his character growth over the movie, over the two movies really, and even his emotional death scene at the end, you know. Yondu was the best part of this movie, I feel. You know, this movie gets really dark when Ego reveals, even before that, when Ego reveals that he put a tumour in Quill's mum's head, which killed her. Because obviously at the start of Guardians of the Galaxy, you see Pete's mother dying from cancer, from a brain tumour. And in this movie you find out his dad put it in her. Ego put it in her. He's been trying to create more planets using kids. He went around lots of planets, making kids of different women, planting seeds. He had Yondu deliver the kids to the planet. And he tried to, because he needed another celestial to create these other planets. And all his other kids failed. So he killed them all. You see a scene with like skeletons. I'm assuming like thousands at least, maybe even millions of skeletons of his children just dead. Because they failed him. He literally went around different planets. I'm assuming after making love to the women, he had a child with them, and then I'm assuming he killed the women, killed all the mothers. I'm assuming, like that's the idea I'm getting, and then he killed all the kids who failed him. It's I'm not explaining it the best way, but it's dark. I don't mind dark, but that's a bit messed up. So my thoughts on this movie still haven't really changed. There are some good bits about this movie that I enjoy. It's not unwatchable, it's not terrible, but I also don't think it's very good. But having said that, I'm really excited for Guardians 3 whenever that comes out. Is this worth it in 4K? Yes. The 4K in this is incredible. Like, I'm considering rewatching this movie just for the 4K, like multiple times. The 4K in this is so good. The picture quality is great. There's a lot of like colours in this. Like the colours stand out so well. There are so many great shots in this, and the 4K looks magnificent. Best 4K I've seen so far in the MCU. This is incredible. Incredible 4K, I gotta say. Spider-Man Homecoming. There's the photo. That's pretty cool. It kind of looks like Spider-Verse in a way. The way the photo is. There he is. US flag behind him. Pretty cool. This is my chance to prove myself. Alright. Now I heard that Sony is one of the best studios for Dolby Vision, like Blu-rays, just movies in general. So, I'm expecting some good things from the quality. As for the movie, I do like this movie. I think it's pretty solid. I know people complain about him being, you know, Tony Stark's protege in a way. I don't mention like Uncle Ben as well. I kind of get that, but I feel like in this movie it works in the grand scheme of things. In Far From Home, I do agree more. I do think they should have done something a bit different. I'll talk about that when I get to that movie, but Homecoming I felt was good. Vulture was a good villain. Marvel's villains overall had been very weak up to this point. You know, we had some good villains like Loki, even Bucky and Winter Soldier, but for the most part, weak villains. This was the point where I felt they started making some really good villains. Vulture in this, followed by Hela, followed by Killmonger, and then obviously Thanos. This is where it started to improve, and Vulture I felt was a very good villain. People compare him to like Walter White, the Walter White of the MCU. Obviously he was trying to provide for his family, basically. Like he wasn't just gonna like he didn't want world domination, didn't want to destroy the world or destroy the city or power. He just wanted to provide for his family, which was understandable, but obviously he went about things in the wrong way, and he's a good villain, an understandable villain, but also a bad guy at the same time. So I really liked Michael Keaton as Vulture for sure. But yeah, I think Tom Holland is a good Spider-Man. I think it's a good mix, you know. The other two Spider-Men were very good as well. I love Tobey Maguire. Andrew Garfield, underrated in my opinion. I think he was very good as Spider-Man, but both of those guys felt looked a bit too old. I felt like they need to be a bit more youthful. They looked older than they should have been. Tom Holland actually looks like he looks like he fits the role, which is great, and I think he plays it quite well. He's decent as Peter Parker as well. I do think Tobey was better at being Peter Parker. Tobey Maguire I felt was the best Peter Parker, but Tom Holland I think plays the character well. But as Spider-Man, Tom Holland is so awesome, you know. And I really enjoy watching him in the MCU, and this I felt was a solid entry for him. Obviously he entered in Civil War and he was great in that, and I think this movie was just fantastic how it was done. One downside to the MCU is they do focus too much around Tony Stark, and I get that he's the main guy, but you know, in both Spider-Man movies the villains were guys who didn't like Tony Stark, for example. Age of Ultron, obviously Tony Stark created Ultron, you know. it's very centered around Tony Stark, quite a lot of things, which I feel is the downside. But again, in this movie, I think it's fine. I think the way he's utilized in this, I think it works in this movie. Also, I think Vulture's suit is pretty cool. Never in my life did I think I would see Spider-Man vlogging. Why did they call Zendaya Michelle Jones, by the way? Because she's named MJ, who's obviously iconic for Spider-Man. But if you're gonna call her MJ, why not just say Mary Jane? Like, why Michelle Jones? Are they implying that Mary Jane is out there somewhere? And if that's the case, why is she MJ? I'm very confused. Surely MJ should be Mary. They could have just named Zendaya Mary Jane. But it was Michelle. I'm just wondering why they did that. The montage of Spider-Man helping people, or trying to help people, stopping little crimes, helping someone cross the road. That's Spider-Man. Like, that's Spider-Man. Stopping a stolen bike from being stolen. That's who Spider-Man is. That's who your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is. So I'm glad they put a bit of that in there. And I hope to see a lot more of that in Spider-Man 3, which I'm pretty sure is finished filming and it's coming out end of the year. It's interesting how he has all these gadgets so early. Like, it's very early that he gets all of these. Obviously, courtesy of Tony Stark, but still. It kind of feels like the game, you know. The way he webs up his backpack as well at the start of the movie to a bin. Obviously, it's also different because he's already Spider-Man in this movie. It's not like it's an origin story like the other two incarnations where this is just, he's Spider-Man, here he is, here's the movie. I like how they tease the Prowler and Miles Morales in this movie. I really hope we get to see Miles Morales in the MCU at some point. Or even just a live action Miles Morales would be great. Hopefully we get that soon. The ferry scene is incredible. It's so annoying that they spoiled it in the trailers. Like, why would you spoil this? This would have been amazing to see for the first time in the actual movie. Then if you died, I feel like that's on me. I don't want that on my conscience. Those words by Tony Stark to Peter get a lot deeper after what happens at the end of Infinity War, when Peter basically dies in his arms. This scene, this argument they have after the ship's best scene in the movie for me. And it actually, like, carries weight when you get to Infinity War. That reveal scene, when you find out that Pete's love interest, Liz, her father, is the Vulture, that reveal was amazing, man. That whole scene. Like, I'm just watching the scene where he enters the house, but this whole scene and also the scene in the car as well. Love it. I love how the whole movie, Peter wanted to impress Tony to try and join the Avengers. And in the end of the movie, when he gets offered the chance, he's like, no. I just like the way he grows as a character in this movie. And in the end, he realizes that he doesn't need to join the Avengers. He can just be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. You know, he can just be, you know, because that's, like, Spider-Man doesn't need to join the Avengers. Spider-Man shouldn't join the Avengers. He should be Spider-Man. So I just like the way the movie ends like that, because he spends the whole movie wanting to do this thing, but then he realizes at the end he's good. The after credits scene is genius. Absolutely genius. So my opinions have not changed on this movie. You know, it's a solid Spider-Man movie, it's a good Spider-Man movie, and it's a good addition to the MCU. Is it worth it in 4K? I would say not necessarily, no. It looks better, sure, but I think the Blu-ray is fine as it is. Yeah, I'm not sure it's worth upgrading to the 4K. I think the Blu-ray gives you enough, but yeah, still looks good. Moving on to Thor Ragnarok. Here it is, nice and pink. There is Thor and Hulk fighting it out, and here is, what's his name again? I've forgotten his name, but he was a funny character. It sounds like you had a pretty special and intimate relationship with this hammer, and that losing it was almost comparable to losing a loved one. Okay, could have picked a better quote, but it's quite a long, but I guess funny quote. It's time to watch the only Thor movie that actually works. This movie looks incredible in 4K. Incredible. This is the sort of thing I bought this TV for. My word. Yeah, so I really enjoy this movie. It's a fun ride. A lot of people complain about the amount of comedy in this, and I think that's fair. I think that's fair criticism. But I think the story is good enough, you know, to carry the movie forward. They do put too much humor in it. That is true. But still, I think the movie works for what it is. I think it's got a good storyline, it's got good characters, and adding the Hulk in there was great. The Valkyrie was fantastic in this. So many great characters, including the villain. Hela was a good villain, I felt. So yeah, all in all, I really enjoyed this movie, and it's unique. We'll say that much. It's very unique to the rest of the MCU, but it's also the only Thor movie that actually worked. You know, the one that wasn't average or bad like the other two. So you know, they did something right with this movie. Is it worth it in 4K? Absolutely. It looks fantastic. Some of the sequences, especially action sequences, looks amazing. But honestly, the whole movie looks fantastic in 4K. Really, it's a massive upgrade on a Blu-ray. I'm very impressed. Obviously, there's a Blu-ray as well, not just a 4K file. But you know, you get the point. Better than the regular Blu-ray. It's brilliant. Big upgrades, and I definitely recommend it. This and Guardians 2 so far for me have been the best 4K. Maybe it's because of the bright colors. Maybe it's because of that. But generally, just everything just looks very good. You know. So yeah, really enjoyed it. On to Black Panther. Yes, purple and gold suits the movie. This. There is the photo. There we go. His suit is bloody awesome, by the way. It really is. Look at that. Fantastic. Rest in peace, legend. The quote is, "You're a good man with a good heart, and it's hard for a good man to be king." Very nicely put. About to get started on it now. This is a solid movie. You know, it's very good. A lot of people say it's like amazing, one of the best superhero movies ever. For example, they put it on this high pedestal. I don't think it's that good, but I do think it's a very good movie. It's solid. It's a good entry into the franchise. It's got a good story, good characters. I like characters like Shuri Okoye, for example. T'Challa himself is fantastic. The best character is Killmonger, the villain. Michael B. Jordan is fantastic as the villain. He's so good. Like, he's a villain that you understand his motives. You understand where he's coming from. You understand why he's doing what he's doing. But you also acknowledge that he goes about it in the wrong way. Like, the things he wants to do. He has the right ideas, but obviously the fact that he ends up wanting world domination, for example, like he's trying to become what he hates. So that side of it, obviously, it goes wrong for him. But overall, like, his motives are understandable. You can see what he's doing, but unfortunately, he's blinded by hate and goes on to do things that he shouldn't have done. But he had a point, and he obviously had a big influence on Wakanda afterwards, because T'Challa changed up how Wakanda operated after that. So yeah, fantastic villain. I think Thanos is the best MCU villain, but Killmonger I think is top 3 at least. He's very good. So yeah, looking forward to seeing this movie. It's a good experience, got a good soundtrack as well. The only weak part is the action, to be honest. There's some good fight scenes, especially the one where Killmonger fights T'Challa, you know, for the Black Panther and the crown, and T'Challa ends up falling off a cliff. That's a great fight scene, best fight scene in the movie I think. But overall the fight scenes I think were the weak points, especially the final battle. It didn't look very good, to be honest. But aside from that, I think the story carried it through. The story carried the movie, and the villain of course. But he could have had better action. I think that's the main fault. I also love the concept of a hidden country, you know, like Themyscira in DC. This is like that, but obviously very different. The scene when they first enter Wakanda, brilliant. I love the soundtrack, man. Killmonger's theme, Andy Serkis is hilarious as well. the way he speaks to some people in this guy's too funny, man. You know, I completely forgot about the M'Baku fight scene, where he fights M'Baku for the crown. I forgot about that fight. That's a pretty good fight as well. Also love M'Baku, I forgot about him. Especially later in the movie, he's hilarious as well. He's such a funny guy. But in this scene, the way he's introduced, he's like a serious character. I like how his character's done in this movie for sure. That reveal scene when you find out what really happened in the opening scene after it cuts off at the start of the movie, where T'Challa's uncle obviously the things that are said, and you find out that Killmonger's the son. That whole reveal scene, it's a shocking moment. I remember being in the cinema, I'm just like, what, okay, this escalated. M'Baku is too funny, man. He's too funny. Killmonger's death scene is quite something. His last words as well, those were deep. Every time I see this movie, I enjoy it. You know, it's a good experience, and yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's a solid, good movie, and yeah, it's very unique in its own way, of course. So yeah, next up is Ant-Man and the Wasp, and well, that's that movie I've only seen once in cinemas, and I wasn't sure what I thought of it, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna watch it for the second time ever. Let's see if it's any good. Oh yeah, the 4K question. Is Black Panther worth it in 4K? I'd say yes. I'd say it looks good. Some of the shots of Wakanda especially looked really nice. And there were some good scenes in this. The 4K is good, I think. It's not a huge jump. I think Blu-ray gives you a lot anyway. But it's a jump and it's big enough to justify it, I think. But yeah, it's decent 4K. It's not like amazing 4K, but it's decent. But the scenes of Wakanda are definitely the best 4K shots. Next up, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Nice bright yellow cover here, I quite like it. There is the photo. Here is the other photo. And the quote is, "Hold on, you gave her wings." Surely there was something better. As I said, I watched this once. I watched this movie the least of the whole series. So I don't know if I liked it or hated it. Honestly, I wasn't even in the middle. I just wasn't sure. I was just like, I'm not sure what I think of this. So let's see if that opinion changes, even though it's not really an opinion. Yeah, I still don't know what I think of this. Do I like it? Do I dislike it? I don't know. I really don't. The villain's not really a villain. She's just trying to save her own life. She's gonna die, so she needs something, and it requires killing someone. Well, it's more in depth than that, but yeah. And then there's a third party. There's a gang. They don't really need to be there. They just have to be a nuisance. And yeah, Quantum Realm. You know, Quantum Realm. You get some stuff about the Quantum Realm. That's important in Endgame, obviously, but also not. You know, you don't need to see this to understand the Quantum Realm in Endgame anyway. There were some cool action scenes, I'll tell you that. So yeah, is it worth it in 4K? Some of the scenes, especially in the Quantum Realm, look good in 4K, but I wouldn't say it's worth it in 4K as a whole. Like, the whole movie is not, like, it looks better, sure, but not worth the upgrade. Although the chase scene towards the end was really cool. I don't mean for the 4K, I mean like in terms of the movie. The chase scene towards the end was really fun to watch. There were some good action scenes. But yeah, I still don't know what I think of this movie. This will still be my least rewatched movie of the MCU. I mean, this is my first time rewatching it, actually, which is kind of mad. But yeah, we have 3 movies left, and I'm gonna leave, as I said, I'm gonna leave the last 2 Avengers movies, the 2 big Avengers movies, to the very last. So next up is Spider-Man: Far From Home. Here we are. I'm kind of confused at the colours they choose for each movie, to be honest. Like, some of them they get right. Then you see Spider-Man purple, you're just like, wait, what? But anyway, there is the photo. I know that photo. That's a cool picture. Oh, no. I didn't mean to do that. Oh, I changed the quote as well. Well done. Here's the stealth suit. You know, it's brilliant. I love the different suits he has in this, especially the red and black one in London as well. It's great. I think Nick Fury just hijacked our summer vacation. Why does this look like a menu for a game? I don't know why. I'm getting Life is Strange vibes. I bought a few movies, by the way. Just a few. Now, my issue with this movie is that it's too centered around Tony Stark. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, I know he just died in Endgame. I get that. And I get that Peter had a close relationship with Tony, like a father-son relationship. And some of the scenes they have together in Homecoming, in Infinity War, and in Endgame, it's really emotional. Like, in Homecoming when he says, if you died, I feel like that's on me. And then he dies in his arms in Infinity War. And in Endgame, when Tony dies and Pete's there crying, that scene made me cry in the cinema. And I get it, right? They had a close relationship. I understand that. But I feel like this was the movie where I felt they should have, you know, have him step out of Tony's shadow and really start to be his own man. But it's still like he got weapons from Tony. Tony passed down technology to him. The villain is a former Tony employee who's disgruntled, just like, I guess, in Homecoming. They didn't need to do that. Yes, I would expect them to still mention Tony. I would expect them to show him grieving over Tony. I get that, but I feel like they focus too much of the movie around Tony. But apart from that, you know, Mysterio is a good villain. Jake Gyllenhaal plays it really well. The illusion scenes, oh my word. The 2 illusion scenes are incredible. I watched them in the cinemas and I was just amazed, absolutely amazed by those illusion scenes. Looking forward to seeing those scenes. And also, Spider-Man visits London. Spider-Man in London is really cool. Like, I live in London. As a Londoner, to see my home city in an MCU movie is awesome, and to see Spider-Man, the most popular superhero ever, swinging around in London is awesome. You know, there's things I like about this movie, but also things that I felt could have been better. I think this movie's okay. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's bad. I just think it's okay. But yeah, I'm going to watch it now, and let's see if my opinion changes in any way, shape or form. I mentioned in Homecoming about certain elements being similar to the Spider-Man PS4 game. In this one, the noir suit, which is really cool, and later on in London there's a black and red suit. He has a lot of suits in this. Also reminds me of the game a little bit. But cool suits though. The noir suit looks really cool. I just seen it. And the black and red suit is a favourite of mine. So I just watched the illusion scene, which ends in obviously him getting hit by a train. That scene is incredible, man. Every time I see it, it is incredible. Best scene in the movie for me. And it looks really good in 4K. Like, this movie looks good in 4K, by the way. Already I approve. But that illusion scene in 4K, oh, unreal. The Netherlands football fans turning up is it's quite funny. The final battle in London is an awesome one. The scene where he gets exposed and the whole world finds out that he's Peter Parker, that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. That scene was insane. Revealing J. Jonah Jameson as well, and having it the same actor is just fantastic. That makes me so excited for Spider-Man 3, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this concept. I hope it's like, what I was hoping for was the John Wick freestyle movie where everyone's trying to hunt him down, he's trying to fight his way out of it, trying to, I don't know, clear himself in a way. That's what I'm hoping for. I don't know if it will be that, but I at least want some of that. I kind of expected like Sinister 6, but I don't think that will happen so early. But I'm just really excited to see what they do with it. Hopefully they make a whole movie out of that whole concept rather than them fixing it in the first 5 minutes. I really hope that's the case. Next up is the last 2. Well, this was technically the last one actually, but I wanted to watch the big Avengers movies last. So Infinity War and Endgame, 5.5 hours of craziness, and I want to watch it all in one go without interruption. So I'll be talking about it after it ends. So yeah, there we go. I'm very excited though to see those 2 movies for sure. This one, Far From Home, you know, I told you my feelings on it, haven't really changed, but there's some good parts to it for sure. Is it worth it in 4K? Yes it is. Looks very good, especially the illusion scene in the middle of the movie. That was unreal. Alright, it is time, and we got colours actually fit the movie, which is fantastic. This is my favourite MCU movie, and for me it's the best MCU movie. I cannot wait to watch this first, obviously. The quote is, "The hardest choices require the strongest wills." A famous quote from Big Man Thanos. This is, oh, it's not really a picture, it's just a title. Okay, interesting. And there is the man himself. Endgame's one. Here is the photo. There's Captain America, that's nice. There he is. With Mjolnir, nice. Avengers Assemble. Fair enough. Fair enough. There we go. It is time to experience this. And done. I think I lost track of how long 5.5 hours is. It was daylight when I started watching, and now it's night time. Almost midnight actually. No, actually it's 10:30, so close to midnight. So yeah, these movies are an experience. This whole saga is an experience, and these movies made the whole thing worth it. It's just unbelievable what they did with Infinity War and Endgame. They really pulled this off. I feel Infinity War is the better movie overall, but Endgame, the last hour of Endgame is just insane. The amount of fan service, the amount of crazy things that happened, you know, Captain America lifting Mjolnir finally after they teased it for so long, Avengers Assemble, all these crazy things. Like, we saw, let me just make sure I get every detail from the scene, just so I don't miss any detail out, right? We saw Spider-Man, first of all. Spider-Man in the MCU in the first place was amazing. It was amazing that they managed to get that deal done. But Spider-Man, the most popular superhero ever, the biggest superhero out there in the world. We saw Spider-Man in the Iron Spider suit at the end of Endgame in the final battle, carrying the Infinity Gauntlets with all the Infinity Stones in them, while riding Mjolnir, which was thrown by Captain America, and then landed on Valkyrie's horse. We saw Spider-Man do all that in a movie. Like, that's something you see in a comic. That sort of convenience, that sort of thing, that sort of crazy thing. And a lot of the things in that final battle, those are the sort of things you see in comics. The fact they brought that sort of stuff to life, that sort of crazy comic stuff to life on the big screen and made it work is just insane. And that's just one example. Maybe the craziest example, actually, considering the amount of elements involved. But there's so many awesome things that happen in battles in both of these Avengers movies, and it's just crazy. And I'm so glad they pulled it off. This is a great saga. They pulled it off, and they pulled it off so damn good. Thanos is a great villain as well. And yeah, it was just amazing. Absolutely amazing. Are they worth it in 4K? Yes, both of them are. They look very good. There's a few scenes that are not that good though. Like in Infinity War, Mark Ruffalo in the Hulkbuster suit didn't look very good. To be fair, it doesn't look good anyway. But in 4K, it kind of looks even worse. There's a couple other bits here and there. A few little scenes where it's just like, not sure about this. But apart from that, 95% of it is very good 4K. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and it looks very good, especially some of the close-ups of Thanos. Some of the Thanos close-ups in 4K are quite something. Now look, these last two movies, well, they're not last two technically, I made them the last two movies, but these two movies, they're not perfect. You know, there are faults. You can pick and choose your faults. Things I'd bring up is the Black Order, as in the 4 members, the children of Thanos. They were underutilized and had no significance considering they were children of Thanos. It's like, why were they there? What they did to Hulk in Endgame, I'm not a fan of. The thing they did with Thor, like the storyline of him being like depressed, having anxiety attacks, like that's like relatable in a way to many people, and it works. But making him fat, making him a joke, that part was a bit silly. The other side of it, the depressing side of his story, it fits. But making him fat, and you know, it wasn't necessary, that part. They made him like comic relief in a way. So yeah, there are definitely faults, and there's other faults that I haven't mentioned, but overall the good far outweighs the bad, and I feel they pulled off something amazing. You know, they managed to make these movies darker but also keep the lighter tone to it, keep the Marvel tone that we know, and they did it so well. They really did. And that Tony death scene is just as emotional. Didn't make me cry this time, but you know, eyes are watering up for sure. Speaking of awesome, I need to watch the Dark Knight trilogy again. I've seen it in 4K, just not on this television, so maybe that's next week or the week after, but definitely soon. I'm definitely in the mood for more comic book sort of stuff. But yeah, I just gotta end the video here. Like, there's not much else to say, and the video's long enough already. Trust me, I know I've edited the rest of it already. But yeah, these movies are an experience, and all of us fans who followed the MCU for years, we got our payoff. We really did, and I am fulfilled by the MCU. I'm looking forward to seeing more. Haven't seen WandaVision yet, or Falcon and Winter Soldier. I need to start watching those, and I'll keep watching. But I feel like I've been fulfilled with Endgame. With the MCU, with Infinity Saga, they're giving me almost everything I've wanted, apart from the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, so maybe they'll do that soon. But you get the point, they're giving me a lot. I want this from DC now. I want Darkseid. I want Darkseid and Justice League. Give me that as well. And I need both sides of the coin. Alright, so I'm a big fan of both, so I want both to succeed, okay? I need DC to have their own Infinity Saga. Just, you know, in their own way, obviously, in their own tone. But yeah, it's just amazing that something like the Infinity Saga, which should never have worked, actually exists and lasted this long and still stayed strong throughout. Now you can rest on a grateful collection. I used to put it up here, but then I thought, hey, it's kind of heavy. Let's put it on a lower level. But yeah, I got a bunch of box sets there, aside from the Avengers one, obviously. Got some, well, they've got a 4K section here, followed by Blu-rays from Blade onwards, which is cool. There's a box there as well, which I couldn't fit up there. And we've got a bunch of 4Ks here. Bloody awesome. I'm going to be watching quite a few of these for Moon Mondays coming up. So, just so you know what's coming. I want to rewatch Lord of the Rings again. I haven't watched it on this TV, so I got to do that. Dark Knight Trilogy's right there. So, that'll be soon. That'll be soon. But quite a few of these 4K ones I'll be rewatching very soon. Haven't seen Gladiator, so that'll be a first time as well. Haven't seen the Blade trilogy either, so that's another thing. I'm just delaying the end of the video now, so I shall be on my way. The credits are just ending as well as I talk about this. This is your boy Davidoff. Please like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a good day, and see ya.